Ethan Cole lived alone on Red Mesa, a dry, dusty planet with mesas, canyons, and deserts that stretched for miles. Life on the frontier was never easy, but Ethan liked it that way. Every morning he woke to the sun's first light painting the sky in shades of orange and red. He would check on his animals, repair fences, and make sure everything was in order before the heat became unbearable. Alone though he was, he found peace in the quiet life, far from the crowded, noisy settlements where politics and greed often ruled. The people in the nearby settlement called him brave, not because he sought danger, but because he never shied away from it when it appeared. Travelers sometimes came through Red Mesa, and he always helped them if trouble arose. That had earned him a reputation as a man of honor. But tonight, Ethan didn't know that his courage would bring more than respect. It would bring a surprise that would change his life forever. The night was calm when the cries came from the desert's edge. Ethan heard the shouts and the sound of blaster fire. His instincts told him to grab his rifle and go. He knew that no one should fight alone, but he couldn't ignore the danger. He mounted his hoverbike and sped toward the noise. The red dunes blurred past him, but he didn't slow down until he saw the scene. A small convoy of supply vehicles was under attack. Raiders, humans and aliens masked and armed, were taking everything they could. Ethan didn't hesitate. He used his bike to block one of the attackers and fired carefully, hitting the raider in the shoulder. The rest turned to him, surprised. That was enough for the convoy to escape. But then he saw something that made him stop in his tracks. Among the chaos lay a figure, moving very little, her body marked with wounds. She was not human. Her skin was a soft bronze, her eyes bright amber, and her hair dark as night, tied in intricate braids. She wore armor decorated with feathers and beads that glowed faintly under the desert moonlight. Ethan recognized her immediately from the stories the settlers whispered. An Apache warrior, fierce, proud, and almost untouchable in battle. Without thinking of the danger, Ethan leapt from his bike and ran to her. He lifted her carefully, feeling the weight of her body in his arms. She groaned, a sound of pain that made him quicken his pace. He carried her toward the small home he had built on the mesa. Inside, he laid her on a cot and quickly cleaned her wounds. Every cut, every bruise, he treated with the care of a man who valued life. When she woke, she opened her eyes slowly, scanning the room with suspicion. Her gaze fixed on Ethan, and he could see both caution and pride in her expression. She did not speak, only watched him move, tending to her injuries. Ethan offered her food and water. She accepted silently, still unsure of his intentions. "I won't hurt you," he said softly. "I'm just helping." She tilted her head, studying him as if trying to decide whether his words were true. Finally, she spoke in a language he could barely understand, but her tone was not aggressive. It was measured, calm, respectful. Ethan smiled gently and tried to mimic her gestures, showing he meant no harm. Days passed, and the warrior, whose name was Naru, slowly recovered. Ethan learned more about her, through gestures, drawings, and simple words. He learned she was a scout for her tribe, the Apache, who lived far beyond the dunes in hidden valleys. They were fierce in battle, loyal to each other, and held strong traditions of honor. Ethan did not know that he was being watched. From a distance, Naru's tribe observed the human who saved one of their own. They whispered among themselves in their musical language. They spoke of courage, of respect, and of honor. In their culture, if a warrior's life was saved by another, it created a debt, a bond that could only be repaid in a special way. One morning, while Ethan prepared breakfast, Naru's eyes widened as she suddenly understood something. She had to return to her people, to explain what had happened. Ethan helped her mount her hoverbike, and together they rode across the dunes to the edge of the territory she called home. There, the tribe waited. They studied Ethan carefully, their expressions unreadable but sharp with judgment. Naru explained how he had saved her life. The Council of Elders, their armor decorated with feathers and glowing beads, nodded slowly. In the silence that followed, they reached a decision. According to Apache tradition, a life saved was a debt to be honored. The warrior who saved a life would receive a reward, a bond of companionship, a sacred connection that honored bravery and loyalty. Naru was chosen to return to Ethan, not as a servant, not as a prisoner, but as a partner, a protector, a friend, a warrior bound by honor. Ethan was unaware of all this. The next morning, he awoke to a knock at his door. He opened it to find Naru standing there, her armor polished, her expression proud and calm. She held her ceremonial spear in one hand, and her other hand rested lightly on her hip. "I am yours," she said simply. "By the law of my people, I am bound to you. I am your companion, if you will have me." Ethan stared, completely surprised. He had saved a life, yes, but he had not expected anything in return. He had not thought of rewards or partnerships. This was unlike anything he had imagined. You don't have to do this," Ethan said, finding his voice at last. "I never asked for anything." Naru shook her head. "It is not a matter of asking. It is honor. You saved me. This bond is the proper way to repay that act. You may accept or you may refuse, but the bond exists now." Ethan took a deep breath. He thought about her bravery, about the dangers she faced every day, and about the respect she had for life. He realized that this was not a reward in the ordinary sense. It was a recognition of courage, trust, and loyalty, qualities he had always valued. "I will accept," he said finally, "not because I need a reward, but because I respect your people and I respect you." Naru nodded once, a small smile touching her lips. The bond was formed officially, silently, but unmistakably. From that moment on, they were partners. The tribe would continue to watch, ensuring Ethan proved himself worthy, but he had made the first choice. In the following days, life on the ranch began to change. Naru learned the work of the land, carrying water, tending animals, and helping repair fences. Her strength and agility made her an excellent ranch hand, though she sometimes struggled with the human tools. Ethan, in turn, learned from her how to move silently, how to notice tracks of animals or intruders, and how to survive in ways he had never imagined. The two of them developed a rhythm, a mutual respect growing quietly between them. They did not need words to communicate all the time. Glances, gestures, and small acts of cooperation were enough. Ethan found himself admiring her courage, not just in battle, but in learning a new life far from her home. Naru found herself impressed by his patience, his quick thinking, and his unwavering calm in the face of danger. But life on Red Mesa was never quiet for long. Raiders and scavengers prowled the desert, and rumors spread that an Apache warrior was living on a human ranch. Ethan and Naru both knew that sooner or later, trouble would come again. Yet for now, they focused on daily life, on learning about each other and about the land they shared. One evening, as the sun sank behind the mesas, Ethan and Naru sat together outside the small ranch house. The sky was painted in red and gold, and the desert stretched endlessly before them. "I did not expect this," Ethan said quietly, watching the horizon. Naru tilted her head, her amber eyes reflecting the dying light. "Neither did I. But sometimes, life has ways we do not understand. We must honor what is given to us." Ethan nodded, feeling a quiet warmth in his chest. He did not know what the future held, but he knew that for the first time in a long time, he did not feel alone. There was trust between them, respect, and the beginning of something strong, something neither human nor Apache had fully named yet. As night fell, the desert around them grew dark, but the stars above shone brilliantly. Ethan looked up, thinking of the life he had lived alone and the life that had suddenly arrived at his door. Naru, sensing his thoughts, reached out and placed a hand lightly on his arm. Not a command, not a claim, just a gentle connection. They were two strangers from different worlds, bound by honor, respect, and a shared understanding of courage. And on Red Mesa, a planet as wild and unforgiving as life itself, that bond was stronger than any weapon, brighter than any fire, and more valuable than any reward. The wind blew softly through the desert as Ethan and Naru sat together, ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring, side by side. And neither of them, in that quiet moment, could have imagined just how far this bond would take them, or how it would change the world around them forever. Life on Red Mesa settled into a rhythm that was both quiet and alive. Ethan and Naru worked together, tending the ranch, repairing fences, and preparing food for the animals. Naru moved with a warrior's precision, her steps quiet and her hands steady, while Ethan admired how quickly she adapted to human tools and daily chores. He often caught her observing the horizon with the same intensity she had in battle, as if she were always aware of every movement in the desert. One morning, as Ethan led a group of cattle toward a watering hole, Naru walked beside him. The desert was bright and harsh, the sun barely above the horizon, but neither of them complained. They were used to this land, its challenges, and its beauty. Naru paused, squinting into the distance. "Tracks," she said quietly, pointing to marks in the sand. "Not human. Raiders. Returning." Ethan's jaw tightened. He had hoped the threat had passed after their first encounter. "How many?" he asked. "Enough to cause trouble," Naru replied. Her voice was calm but firm. "We need to prepare." They hurried back to the ranch, working quickly to reinforce fences, set traps, and secure the livestock. Ethan shared strategies from his human experience, while Naru added her knowledge of the desert and warrior tactics. By midday, the ranch was a fortress compared to the usual quiet homestead. As night fell, the raiders approached, drawn by rumors of a human living with an Apache warrior. They were larger in number than before, moving silently across the dunes. Ethan and Naru watched from the ridge, the desert moon casting long shadows. "They won't expect this," Ethan said, loading his rifle. "They will not," Naru agreed, gripping her spear. "But they will learn quickly." The attack came without warning. Raiders charged the fences, shouting and firing energy weapons. Ethan's traps slowed them, but there were too many to stop with simple barriers. Naru moved like lightning, striking with her spear, flipping over obstacles, and taking down raiders faster than Ethan could fire. The sounds of battle echoed across the mesa, the clash of weapons, the shout of human and alien voices, and the steady rhythm of Naru's battle cries. Ethan realized that this was more than defending a home. It was proving that courage, strategy, and partnership could overcome sheer numbers. He and Naru moved together, instinctively covering each other. When a raider lunged at Ethan from behind a fence, Naru spun, knocking him off balance and leaving Ethan free to strike. Later, when a raider attempted to steal livestock, Ethan's rifle shot rang out, saving Naru just as a blade grazed her armor. By dawn, the raiders had retreated. The ranch was battered but standing. Ethan and Naru surveyed the damage. Both were covered in dust and sweat, but neither was injured beyond scratches. There was a quiet satisfaction in their eyes. They had survived, fought together, and proven their strength. News of their victory spread quickly across Red Mesa. Travelers and settlers spoke of the human rancher and the Apache warrior who defended their home. Even the Apache tribe, watching from their hidden valleys, murmured in approval. Ethan's courage had not only protected his ranch but also earned the respect of an entire alien tribe. Days turned into weeks. Naru adapted further to human life, learning to cook simple meals, ride animals, and repair tools. Ethan, in turn, learned the ways of the Apache, tracking subtle movements, listening to the desert winds, and understanding unspoken cues. Their bond deepened with every shared task, every conversation, and every challenge they faced together. One afternoon, a messenger from the Apache tribe arrived. He was a tall, imposing figure adorned with the tribe's traditional beads and feathers. His voice carried authority as he spoke to Ethan. "The council has watched your actions. They recognize your courage, your honor, and your loyalty. They invite you to join the tribe as an ally and protector. This is a rare offer for a human, and it carries great respect." Ethan felt a mix of pride and hesitation. I appreciate the offer," he said, "but my home is here. My ranch is here. I cannot leave it behind." The messenger nodded. "Then remain where you are, but know that the bond between you and Naru has strengthened your connection to the tribe. You are welcome, and the tribe honors your decision." That evening, Ethan and Naru sat outside their home, watching the stars. Ethan turned to her. "They respect me. You have helped them see my value." Naru smiled faintly. "You have earned their respect yourself. I only guided them to see it. And you earned mine long before any council did." The words made Ethan pause. He realized how far they had come, from a chance meeting in the desert to this partnership that bridged two worlds. He had never imagined that saving a life could lead to this kind of bond, this deep connection that was built on trust, respect, and shared experience. The following days brought more challenges. A sudden sandstorm swept across Red Mesa, threatening livestock and tearing down fences. Ethan and Naru worked tirelessly through the storm, securing animals and repairing damage. Their teamwork was seamless, each anticipating the other's needs without a word spoken. The storm passed, leaving the ranch battered but intact, and their partnership stronger than ever. Soon, another threat emerged. Not from raiders, but from a rival settler who sought to claim the land for himself. The man underestimated the rancher and the warrior. He sent his hired forces to intimidate Ethan, believing numbers alone would make him yield. Ethan met the challenge calmly. He and Naru used their combined knowledge of the land to set up defensive positions, traps, and surveillance. When the rivals' men arrived, they found themselves outmatched not by sheer force, but by strategy and coordination. Ethan's human ingenuity and Naru's Apache warrior skills created a defense that was impossible to breach. By the end of the confrontation, the rival retreated, realizing that neither brute force nor intimidation could overcome their unity. Their reputation grew even further. Other settlers began seeking Ethan's advice, learning from his strategies, and respecting the presence of the Apache warrior at his side. Even travelers passing through Red Mesa left stories of the human and the warrior who had faced storms, raiders, and rival factions, always emerging victorious because they worked together. One evening, after another long day of work, Ethan and Naru sat together outside the ranch house. The sun was setting, painting the desert in golden light. Ethan looked at her, noticing the way her armor caught the last rays, the determination in her eyes, and the calm strength she carried naturally. "You've changed my life," he said softly. "I never expected any of this. I never thought saving someone's life could bring such a bond, such respect." Naru reached out and touched his arm lightly. "It is not the saving alone that matters. It is what we do after, how we honor life, how we fight together, and how we trust. That is what strengthens a bond." Ethan nodded, understanding. Their partnership had become more than a reward or an obligation. It had become a true connection, one that respected each individual's strength while combining them into something greater. The Apache tribe continued to send occasional messengers, offering advice and support. Ethan's ranch became a symbol of what humans and Apache could achieve together. The settlers and travelers learned that courage, honor, and teamwork transcended species and tradition. In time, Ethan realized that Red Mesa had become more than a home. It was a place where two worlds met, where trust and respect could grow in a harsh, unforgiving land. Naru, once a lone warrior, had found a new home alongside him, and their bond became a story told across the mesas and valleys, a story of courage, loyalty, and the strength of two hearts standing together. Years later, settlers and travelers still spoke of Ethan Cole and Naru, the human rancher and the Apache warrior. They spoke of their victories, their partnership, and their example of what could happen when honor, respect, and courage guided actions instead of fear or greed. On Red Mesa, the wind blew softly across the mesas, carrying stories of bravery and trust. Ethan and Naru worked together, laughed together, and faced challenges together. Their bond was unbreakable, their partnership legendary, and their life on the frontier became a symbol that sometimes the most unexpected rewards were the ones that could change the world. And in the quiet moments, under the wide desert sky, they would sit together and watch the stars, knowing that what had started as a chance encounter in the desert had grown into something far greater, a connection that honored life, celebrated courage, and bridged two worlds. They had faced storms, raiders, and challenges too many to count, yet their strength was not in weapons or numbers, but in unity. Ethan, the brave human rancher, and Naru, the proud Apache warrior, had created a life together that no force on Red Mesa could destroy. Their bond became a beacon, a reminder to all who heard their story that courage and honor could unite even the most different of beings, and that true partnership could change everything. The desert remained wild and untamed, but Ethan and Naru thrived within it. Their ranch flourished, the animals were safe, and the settlers respected their land. Life was not easy, but it was theirs. And together they would face whatever came next, side by side, as equals, as partners, and as two hearts bound by honor and trust. The story of the brave rancher and his unexpected reward became legend, not just because of what they did, but because of what they represented. That true courage and loyalty could transcend worlds, species, and even destiny itself. On Red Mesa, under the endless sky, Ethan and Naru lived and thrived. And the bond that had begun with a life saved continued to grow, stronger and brighter than any star above them.